Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of season 3. Technically, are we counting these as seasons? Anyways, the first episode of Memories of Ice for Podcast of the Fallen. Apparently we're just switching off who intros the episode every book, so you get to hear my voice first. I'm Nathan, and this is Matt.
We're back. Season 3.
We're back. We haven't recorded an episode in 16 days.
It's a while because we did so many so quick. Like, I feel like I haven't read Malazan for a hot minute.
Yeah, we had to record 3 episodes in a week, 2 so that we could catch up to the end of the book so that we could record the 3rd episode on schedule with Lee. And then Matt decided to go to Disneyland that next week.
Yep. It's a lot of fun.
So now we're back because for some reason Matt didn't feel like recording from his hotel room surrounded by family.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been too great. Been really hard. I can't believe we talked to Lee, though. That feels like forever ago. Like
Yeah.
months ago.
No, just like over 2 weeks ago.
It blows my mind. And then, like, I was chatting with someone today at work, and she was like, yeah, no, we were doing something over the weekend, me and my husband. And over the PA system, it said 4 weeks until Christmas. She's like, that can't be true. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, it can't be 4 weeks until Christmas. Like, there's no way December's almost here. Like, December's here.
Yep, 2023 is almost over, and we've been recording the podcast for 4 months now. It's only been out for 3 months.
It was July, right? We started?
Yeah, near the end of July.
That's right.
So in every previous time that I've read Book of the Fallen, I have already finished all 10 books. And here we are just starting book 3.
Yeah. It's a hot minute. I wonder how many books we'll finish next year.
Yeah, we'll see.
If we'll even finish this one this year.
I don't think so.
I think it'd be kind of fun.
We've been averaging like 8 episodes a book, so
that's what, 8 weeks.
For listeners, because you might not get this till the new year, but we're recording this on November 27th.
Oh, that's true. People may not be hearing this for a while.
I guess they'll hear it in 3 weeks because we've got 2 backup episodes.
That's right. I forget sometimes that we have that many backup episodes. And so then I forget like how long people have to wait. Like, I'm talking thinking, oh, they're going to hear this tomorrow.
Oh.
It's like, no, it'll be a while before they hear it.
Yeah. I mean, they still get an episode every week. It just...
Yeah.
And I also wanted to say this. Viewers may have noticed this already, but uploads were kind of spotty. Like, sometimes it would happen on Saturday, sometimes on Sunday, sometimes on Monday. I've decided that episodes will come out at 9 o'clock a.m. Monday morning, Mountain Standard Time, because that's our time zone. Because that gives me the whole weekend to edit rather than having to rush to edit during the week to get it up on Saturdays. So episodes will come out every Monday.
Do you just automatically say publish at this time? Like, you upload it?
Yeah, you can set it to publish at a certain time.
Yeah. I mean, those of you who don't know, I have 0 hands in terms of editing and publishing. Nate does it all. I'm just here for the ride.
Well, maybe we can put you in charge of social media if we ever end up doing that. But anyways, I think that's all of the business. So we can jump in.
Yep, we're doing prologue through chapter 2, right?
Yep.
Okay, I read that at least.
Are you forever fearful of what happened with our very first episode where
I was
didn't
so
read
confident.
everything?
I was like, oh, I did all the reading. I was on time. Missed a whole chapter.
And then I was like, hey, time for chapter 4. And Matt was like, oh, we were supposed to read all the way through chapter 4?
Yeah. I totally spaced it. I think we may have talked about it in person. That's why, because I probably would have checked my phone. I don't think I did. Unless we did, and I just completely forgot to check my phone. But
I might have mistold you too. Who knows? That was months ago.
Seriously. So weird that was months ago.
Anyways, let's get into it.
Let's jump in.
The prologue for Memories of Ice. Hundreds of thousands of years in the past, Pran Chol views the frozen remains of a hunt between A and Renag, 2 animals native to the area, and together he and his clan leader relate it to the Imass struggle against the Jagut. They are close to their prey. A Jagut mother and her two children flee the Imass, the last Jagut left alive on this continent. A bonecaster appears in front of them and offers the mother a bargain to save her children. She accepts, and the Imass takes the children to a gate that she assumes to be the Jagut warren Amtos Falak. The Imass kill the Jagut mother. Pran Chol travels to Morn. It is revealed that the other bonecaster is Kalava, Tool's sister. The rent in the sky that she sent the children to was not Jagut, but something else, and the children being sent into it freed another creature. Pran Chol mentions that the ritual of Talan has been called for, and Kalava calls the Imass insane. The elder god Kroll arrives on Corelri 3 years after the fall of the crippled god, who was torn to pieces when summoned to this world. The fall destroyed an entire continent, leaving desperate survivors in its wake. There, he joins with 2 other elder gods, Draconis and the sister of Kol Knights. They find Kalor seated upon his throne, and he tells them that he incinerated the entire continent rather than let his subjects be freed. The gods curse him to live forever and never ascend, and he curses each of them in turn. The gods then fashion a warren to sweep the remains of the empire into. Draconis mentions that he has been making a sword. A wolf watches the 3 gods depart. It is ancient compared to them and has lost its mate, but it will find it. It disappears into a warren. One of the best prologues I've ever read to any book ever.
That was probably my favorite part of most of the reading. It's so good.
That makes sense. Everyone gets to Memories of Ice and they're like, oh, holy crap, this prologue, it's a lot.
It's a lot. It really is, because it's like at the beginning, he doesn't use a lot of the timeline or like years and stuff you mentioned, but it mentions like 300,000 years before Burn Sleep.
298,665.
Which is just insane. That like it's just that much time before.
And it's that old, and this is the 33rd Jagut War.
Yep. It's like 33rd. Like what in the... It's like we need like an ancient history on top of ancient history here. Like, it is insane.
So I told you we'd get more of the Imass and the Jagut.
We definitely did. We definitely got it. Because they mentioned the tyrant though, didn't they, in this?
Yeah,
Prologue?
the Jagut mother thinks about race.
And how they tie it, like they forged an alliance for a brief moment to it blows my mind.
Yes, so what did you think of Pran Chol makes a reappearance? I don't know if you caught that we've seen him before.
I'm trying to remember because you mentioned the name and I was like, wait a second, I remember. We've heard him from somewhere, but I can't remember from where.
He's the Talan Imass in Krup's dream that helps the Rivi woman give birth.
Oh, okay. That still doesn't add up 100%, but
Nope. But
nope.
yeah, he's the one that Krupp that Pran Chol asks, how long will I have to wait? And Krupp says like 300,000, or Kroll says you have 300,000 years to wait, and Krupp says, well, at least you have something to look forward to.
You know, that's there's just so much going on in terms of like going back that like I thought was really cool, and like it talked about the ice fields and how they had melted. Like this is post Jagut, like this feels like the tail end of everything. Am I wrong in saying
kind
that?
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also near the end of, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, but this is also near the end of the Imass's like mortality, because that ritual of Talan that Kalava mentions later, that's the ritual that turned them into immortal bone people.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, because it just talks about them like they're old. They've been hunting them for a while. Just the struggle of hunting them. But I mean, I don't feel like I have a ton to say other than the fact that this is just awesome that we got. Like finally, I feel like get a bit of an info dump on some things and like some backstory.
Yeah, I do have a bit to say because I feel like this prologue really shows the other side, because in Gardens of the Moon, from what Tool tells Lorne, you get the sense in Gardens of the Moon that, oh, the Talan Imass were the good guys, the Jagut were the bad guys, and they came together to stop these terrible people. And then it's like the 33rd Jagut War ends by Imass killing a defenseless mother who can't fight back. And she's so desperate that she bargains with an Imass to save her children.
No, that's a good point, because like I was thinking a little bit about that, like because you had mentioned it at the end of one of the last episodes we had done, I think, as well.
Yeah,
Because
when
we
they
saw a little bit of Ikariam and the other Jagu and kind of their demeanor and like the burial of the one kid, or the sort of burial, if you could call it that.
and eternal like imprisonment.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting to see because it talks about they're like, well, our jobs here is done. Like we can move on to the next continent essentially or something, or like we can move on to something else for a little bit. But yeah, and I was like, that's pretty wild that they fully exterminated an entire people,
Oh yeah, they went full genocide.
which blows my mind. But we see what's interesting is Tool came up again.
Yes.
It was his sister that betrayed his clan or something, is the way it
Hmm.
sounded, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I don't know, just was kind of cool to see a little more of his backstory and where he came from.
Yeah. I actually have quite a bit to say about this first part.
Okay.
I really like how Pran Troll and his clan leader like relate the A and the Renag
Mm-hmm.
to themselves, and it's revealed like near the end of that section. You get the feeling that this is like a live happening that's going on, and then you find out, oh no, all of the animals are like caked in mud and have turned to stone. So this is ancient.
Yeah, I remember that.
And just talking about how is it our fault that all the animals are messed up because we overhunted this animal and then we overhunted the other animal and then
I
the
know.
predators had no food to eat.
They had mentioned that, and I was like, that's pretty gnarly that like the Talana Mass had such an impact on this world with what they'd done in terms of ecology, people, wars, everything.
Yeah, they had a big impact. I The only reason that the Jagut mother trusts Kalava is because she can tell that she's been recently pregnant herself, and
Yep.
Kalava lost her child, so she's kind of
Sympathetic towards her.
yeah sympathetic and looking for a way. I almost get the feeling Kalava is searching for redemption a little bit. Like if I can save
Yeah.
these two, then maybe what I did to my clan isn't like maybe it will wash some of that out. But that
Yeah.
doesn't quite go the way she plans either.
Nope. I mean, because you can tell she doesn't fully agree with the Talana Mass and what they've been doing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
She's like, this isn't right, guys. Time out, time out.
Yeah, because when Pranchol shows up, she kind of gloats like, haha, you can't get to them now. And Pranchol is like, actually, we would not have subjected them to that fate because that's not the Jagut Warren like you thought. Putting the kids there actually freed something else that might be worse. And if you really want redemption, are you willing to take their place? And she's not.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, when I remember reading that, I was just like, oh, those poor kids, thinking they're gonna go home just to suffer whatever they're gonna suffer, because it doesn't explain it. It's just like, ah, I was a
Just
little,
eternal suffering. Yeah.
I know, not gonna lie, I was a little peeved. I was like, come on, you've given us so much stuff already. Can't you just like not cliffhanger this part?
And then at the very end of that section, we get mentioned that the city was built by Kachin Shamal,
Oh
which I
yeah,
think is the first mention that they've had.
yeah, I didn't recognize their name
I
because
think they've been,
like
I think they've been in, or they might have been in the glossary of Guardians of the Moon as just like an ancient race.
maybe because like I read that, I was like, they sound like they're an ancient race, and then I remember after I think I read the prologue, I went through most of the names in glossary, just kind of get an overview again because there's so much. And said they're the first or one of the first races. They're not around anymore or something,
One of the four founding races presumed extinct.
which made me just think, like, come on, I just want a history book now and a lot of this. So like, these current events can wait.
Well, and then after that, we're not done because then we jump forward to 119,000 years before Burn's sleep, and we get Kroll and the other gods confronting Kalor.
Yeah, Calor, I don't remember him. Has he been mentioned?
He is the guy that appears once in Gardens of the Moon. He's Caladan Brood's second that makes that comment about Caladan getting too heavy for his horse.
Oh, that's right, because they bring him up in Deadhouse Gates, I think, at
Yeah,
one point,
Kalam
right?
walking through the Imperial Warren full of ashes and dust finds Kalor's sigil,
Yep, that's right.
which that connects to something here.
Yeah. So he's the immortal, not immortal.
Yeah, he's the immortal man that will never ascend.
Yep. And to ascend, what does that give you? Because that makes me wonder then. Like, is there any explanation that's not Raphoing?
Um, I'll Raffo it. I believe we'll get more explanations on what ascending means,
Okay.
but if you look in the glossary, you'll get a list of gods and ascendants.
Yeah.
And so Hood is there, Shadowthrone is there, Animander Rake is on that list.
Because what it sounds like is they're just immortal beings with more power and like control of a warren or something.
I would say other than they don't necessarily have to have control of a warren, but I would say that thinking of them as immortal beings with more power is a good way to think of them for now.
Yeah. Because that's more or less what I've understood to a degree. Because the gods in this make me like sometimes I'm like, are they really gods though? Because they feel like kind of just like mortals with extra power that live forever, but they can still die. Like I don't know, it feels a bit like Greek history, where there's just like a pantheon type of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I would say no, I don't want to say that right now.
Because as well, it's like it mentions other gods, because I guess in this world, the belief is that if you want, you can ascend and become a god in a sense. And there's like beast gods as well, the soul taken ascendants, because it mentions a couple of them in this prologue and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, I think.
Oh, yes, definitely, and there will be more added to that. We get the I think is this the first mention of the crippled god?
I mean, I'm struggling to remember that because when reading it, I was like, I know I've read his name before, partly because it's on the title of one of the covers, I think. It's like the title of one of the
Oh,
books.
it's the title of the 10th book. Yeah.
But I don't remember. I think he's maybe been mentioned once or twice, and maybe Gardens of the Moon once. Because I know they mentioned some people. I know they mentioned Cruel because he was in
Yeah.
there. But I want to say they did mention the crippled god maybe once, but like there's been no explanations. Like his name's just been mentioned, I think.
Okay.
But
Well, here we get the explanation for him. Calor was such a tyrant and an emperor that a group of people decided to try summoning down a foreign god to stop him, and it didn't work and killed those people. But the crippled god was shattered into pieces upon descending to the Malazan world, and basically
interesting.
killed and like basically shattered or devastated an entire continent.
Didn't it hurt a Warren as well? Or is that a different thing?
That's a different thing.
That's a different thing. Okay. Yeah, I was a little confused reading that because I was like, I understood like the god would have been like severely injured and all that, and like the devastation from it, but I didn't realize entirely that he was brought from an entirely different place,
Yep. He's
which is
not
just
from the
wild.
Malazan world. So there you go.
There's just I don't know. And he just keeps adding stuff every prologue.
He does.
And I'm
And
just
then
like, this is nuts.
yeah. And then Kroll, as he travels across the continent, he feeds on the blood that was spilled onto the land. And then it
Yep.
says that elder gods embody a host of harsh unpleasantries.
Yeah. Which makes sense. I feel like elder gods, like it kind of reminds me of like Greek mythology and Roman mythology of like the elder titans and gods or whatever were all more like the gods of a raw power or raw element. And then the later gods were all like combinations of those elements that are more refined, less dangerous in some aspects. So that's why I feel like some of these elder gods are. It's like one's like this isn't like anything like this is just me like hypothetically like chaos. Like there's a god of chaos, like there's just like that raw power, god of light, god of darkness, like these just raw elements, and then they're combined, and you have like shadow, which would be like combination of light and dark, but more dark, things like that. So that's what it feels like, because a lot of these ascendants are like partial mixes of things. And then we learned about what's his name? The wizard and that died from the rats.
Oh, Culp.
Culp. He's like a Warren of a Warren of a Warren or
Yeah,
something.
his Shadow Warren, the Talon Imas tells him, is the child of the
Yeah.
Kurald Emerlon, which is the Teist Eater Warren of Shadow.
Yeah. So it feels like then there could be an ascendant of that, and he's like kind of like the baby ascendant of the other ascendants or something like
Well,
that. I don't know.
keep all this in mind.
But Kroll though, he's we haven't seen too much of him. I don't feel like we, or at least I haven't learned a lot about him.
No,
Like there hasn't been much given.
Krull's Belfry is featured prominently in Guardians of the Moon.
Mhm.
It's where Crocus sees that first assassin die at the beginning of the book, and then it's where Rallick kills the dude that was going to kill Cole later on.
Oh, okay.
And then he has a brief conversation with Animander Rake near the end of the book.
Okay.
And then I did just want to point out, Krull doesn't say this, but it's from his point of view. The first empire had risen on a continent half a world away from where Krull now walked, an empire of humans born from the legacy of the Talani Mass, from whom it took its name. And if you'll recall, Heboric and Culp and Felisin walked through a dead city of the first empire.
They walked through a dead city.
It's that city
Oh,
where all the soul
yeah,
taken
yeah,
had been
yeah, yeah.
turned to stone.
That's right. Yep, all in the what's that desert?
Oh, Raraku.
Raraku. There's too many names.
Or I've
So
also heard it called Raraku, but I
Raraku.
like Raraku better.
Raraku feels better. Pikachu. That's what it reminds me of.
Yep. So Krull meets up with two other gods, Draconis and the sister of Cole Knights.
Are they related? It sounded like they're siblings. Or are they
They're
just buddies?
they're not siblings. They just call each other that
Okay.
because they're all elder gods.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Calor tells them that he burned his entire empire and continent rather than let the gods come free his subjects.
Which is just wild that he was able to do that. Guy's gnarly. I don't like
Yeah.
him.
Well, I was talking with two of our other coworkers that don't read the series, and Todd, namesake of the outro of our podcast, was sending me pictures of stuff being like, is this metal? Or no? Like, is this metal? And so I told him about Calor, and I was like, if this isn't metal, I don't know what is.
Oh, I know. The guy's just I remember reading it and I was like, okay, this is just a bad dude. Like this is objectively a bad guy.
Yeah, he's sitting on a throne on top of a heap of bones. And then the elder gods curse him to live forever and never ascend. And he uses the sacrifice of all 7 million people that have died to curse them back.
He's like, and I delivered three curses. I'm like, whoa, hey, buddy, that's like what? How does that work?
I mean, two of the curses we've seen have come true.
Yeah,
He curses Kroll to be forgotten.
Grohl's the first god, right?
Kroll's the first one that we see, yeah.
Yep.
So we saw that in Gardens of the Moon, and then he cursed Draconis that he will die by like the weapon of his own making. And
Which
then we
just
learned
happened.
from talking Tool later, yeah, that that's happened.
And then the sister we don't know still.
Yeah, we don't know that yet.
Yeah, but like from that sacrifice though, part of me wonders. I'm like, all right, what law states that? Where'd you get that? Where'd you like, hey, you see this? You see this mess? According, it's like I don't know.
Well, life forces have power. We've seen that with the horse that Nil and Nether use in that one battle in
Yeah,
Deadhouse Gates. Kroll is feeding on the blood. And so I feel like to curse gods that require like blood, Calor
yeah. But part of me
does
still
kind of the
wonders,
same
like,
thing.
did he like bottle it up? Like, is it or did it like or like because I feel like if Kroll's feeding off some of that stuff, like when you've absorbed enough of it to probably negate some of that. I don't know. Where's like the vultures of life force, you know?
Well, also, Kroll says we will fashion a place for all of this suffering to go. And I think it's the sister of Cold Knight says that will break you. And he says, yeah, probably, but we can't let the continent remain like this. And they sweep all of the ashes and the remains of Kalos empire into a warren.
I remember that. I thought that was pretty cool. No idea how that works, but thought that was still really cool.
Did you catch the connection?
It was him or what? No, it was the sword, right? That they
No.
swept it into. Because one of them mentioned he'd been
Well,
working on something.
think of another place of Ash, where we've seen
Oh,
Kalor's sigil.
the Imperial Warren. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's also metal. The ash and dust that they were choking on, Kalam and Keneb and Manala and them, is the ashes of 7 million people.
Yeah, I initially thought it was the sword that they're gonna sweep it into.
Oh, no, it's not the sword, because Draconis, the sword
Had
isn't finished yet. Draconis
That's
tells the
right.
other two that he's making a sword.
He's like, this sword will be a warren of itself or something.
Yeah,
But stupid warrens. Anytime I try and think about anything that try and figure out some form of logic, I just can't. I need to stop doing it.
yeah. You need to stop applying boxes and check marks to this.
No, the boxes help it keep it organized, you know. But it's still really cool, like because the warren. I remember him saying that, and I was like, that's pretty wild. That he's just like, I have a warren. Like, let me just clean this up real quick, you know. Let's just let this place heal. I'm like, you can do that?
Just think of gods and
That's
warrens and magic and stuff. Think of it like my dad's garage. It's organized, but there's exceptions, and he misplaces stuff, and stuff changes, and
That's true.
sometimes he doesn't care all that much to keep it super organized.
I know, I know. I feel like I keep getting told this like almost every other episode. I just don't want to accept it.
Oh, and then at the very end of the prologue, okay, the three gods that we've been told are elder gods
Mhm.
leave, and a wolf is watching them, and the wolf thinks that it is ancient compared to the elder gods.
Oh yeah, I was like, what the heck? Where'd you come from? Because isn't this the wolf with like the crazy like had been wandering the chaos or whatever? So it's like mine was kind of gnarly, or
Yeah, it's
right?
been it's been wandering, and sometime between the fall of the crippled god and the devastation, it's lost its mate, and at the very end, it just disappears into a warren full of like swirling
Something.
magic or forces. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading that. I was like, hold the phone. We just got older and older.
Yep.
I was like, this is killing me. I need, yeah, like I said, I need now the history of the history of the history.
When I told
But
you this is like the most epic and ancient history of any fantasy series, I meant
which
it.
is so cool. This is so cool. I think it's all been awesome. But like the more I read it, I'm just like, hold on, Erickson, are you still writing? Can you just like, can we just get a short story on this and this and this, and then a novel on this?
I think part of Erickson's purpose is to show that history is malleable, and we
Yeah.
talked about that a lot in Deadhouse Gates as well.
Yep. It's written by the victors.
Written by the victors, and sometimes good records were not kept, and different people know different things about history that just gets lost to time.
Yep.
So,
It's pretty wild. It's so cool though.
yep, and that's just the prologue. I
I
wish I
know.
could see. For some reason, I can't find a way to see how long we've been recording. I wish there was
40-ish minutes, I think. No, 30-ish.
something like that.
Yeah. And that's it, folks. Everything else was pretty boring compared to that. So
Do you have anything else about the prologue?
no.
Okay. Chapter 1. Gruntle sits in line to cross the river at a ford, consequences of when Race destroyed the bridge that crossed it. He is approached by Emancipor Reese, a manservant whose masters wish to speak with him. Caruli, Gruntle's employer, approves the meeting. He meets Corbelbroach and Beauchelane, both of which unnerve him. They are travelers from afar and had never before heard of the Malazan Empire. They try to get his help to explore the Jagut tomb, but Gruntle refuses. A one-eyed wolf circles a human in the warren of chaos. It sets its possibilities with the arrival, but has almost no knowledge or memory of the world outside the warren. Talk the Younger wakes up on a plain of obsidian. He climbs a barrow to gain a vantage point and sees a ruined tower and more barrows. On his way to the tower, he literally stumbles over Tool lying in the dust. Tool reveals that it's been 2 months since Lorne's death and that they are in the place known as Morn. Lady Envy appears with Baaljag, her A, and Garath, her wolf. Tool reveals that Lady Envy is Draconis' daughter. She summons one of her servants, a masked warrior called a Segula. Once inside the tower, Sinu, the lowest ranked Segula, challenges Tool and is immediately knocked unconscious. As Talk eats, Tool reveals that the original soul sealing the rent was a Kachin Shamal matron. He also informs Envy that she could discover no more here, and she decides to accompany him and Talk north.
They were pretty far south then on they're still in Guanabacus, right?
Yes, they're still in Guanabacus. I think it's,
Because
oh
I'm
no,
looking at it.
it's off the map. At the very south of the
Yeah.
map, it says To Morn.
Yeah. Because I was looking, I was like, wait, I forgot to look. And so I was like, I'm pretty sure it's still in Guanabacus. But yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
very far south.
I think Tool mentions that they're like 200 leagues south of Darudistan, which is like, I want to
Mm.
say like 6 or 800 miles. So they're a fair bit away.
800 miles, though. That's like from what, here to California?
Something like that. It's like 450 miles from here to Las Vegas.
Yeah. So I don't feel like it's that far. I mean, like San Diego, I'm thinking, I guess. LA, San Diego.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's not too far, but it's far.
Yeah. It's not
If
too
you're,
far with a car, but
I mean, still, like, I feel like you have to walk, what, 2, 3 weeks to do that?
something like that. Let's
Like,
bring
if,
out the calculator. 800 divided by, let's say, 4 weeks, 28 days of 29 miles a day.
no, it's farther than I think, I guess, in terms of, because you probably have a few days breaks. So it'd be about a month and a half.
Yeah. So quite far for before modern transportation.
I don't know. They have Warrens.
Okay. So
Anyways.
we start off. Erickson continues his streak of incredible names. We start off with Gruntle,
Oh,
who,
great name.
and then we get Emancipor Reese coming to ask him to meet with his masters, who are named Beauchelane and Corbel Broach.
I'm like, where do you get these names?
And Beauchelane even makes a comment about, he says, like, Corbel Broach, this is Gruntle, a name which I suspect is like a slanting dig at his personality or something like that.
Yep.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I'm like, I saw the names though. I'm like, where did you come up with this? Like fantasy authors, half the time, I'm like, you just rolled the dice with a bunch of letters and said, that's a name.
Yeah. I want to point out the epigraph for chapter one.
Oh, it's a good one.
Memories are woven tapestries hiding hard walls. Tell me, my friends, what hue your favored thread, and I in turn will tell you the cast of your soul.
Yep. I'm glad you read that. I forgot. I knew I was going to mention something.
See, I still haven't started keeping notes, and I know that there's stuff from this section that I wanted to point out, but now I'm going to have to search for it.
Yeah.
Anyways, one of the things that I really appreciate about Erickson is that, like, things that he said happened before have consequences later. There's like a throwaway line in Gardens of the Moon about Race seeing a guardhouse in a bridge and just sending a wave of power at it and destroying it. And then we get to the beginning of Memories of Ice, and Erickson is like, yeah, so that casual thing caused a lot of headaches for a lot of people.
Yep.
And Gruntle's like, yeah, I heard a merchant like actually like died from a burst blood vessel in his brain because he was so frustrated with waiting.
Yeah.
Hey, we're back. If there's any weird jumps in the discussion, it's because Matt's internet went out.
Apparently, my sister was in my dad's office working on homework, and apparently there's a plug under his desk. That's where the modem is, I think.
Uh,
She kicked it on accident, and it knocked out all the internet for a minute.
Sweet.
I was like, oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah. I think I was talking about like I love that Erickson has consequences for things that happened.
Yep, that's true.
And so because of Race destroying the bridge in a throwaway line in Gardens of the Moon, now you've got this whole mess with people trying to use the ford and
Yeah,
wagons getting stuck. And Gruntle thinks that if this keeps up and the bridge doesn't get built for a while, this might turn into like a small merchant town. And then about 5 or 10 years after that, Darudistan might rebuild the bridge, or if it's profitable enough, they might just send a tax collector instead.
yep. Which is an interesting thought, honestly. I was like, oh, I think it's cool because it reminds me of when the Avengers tried to explore some of these ideas of like, you know, fighting and blowing up buildings has consequences.
Oh, yeah,
And
a
so
little bit, yeah,
just a little. So no, I think that is I remember reading that and I was like, oh, I like this. It kind of shows the aftermath of like destruction of something and like how as well it like I feel like it comments on government and people in general and just like It works. It's fine. The other way was a little faster, but do we really want to build it and spend the money when this is just working okay right now?
Yep. And then we'll
So,
profit off of it if we can by sending a tax collector.
yep.
I also
Yep.
love Gruntle thinking like, you know, if anything did get loose, it obviously didn't reach Darujistan. Not that I was sober enough to care about anything that happened that night. And the city was still standing the next morning, at least as much as it can still stand after a festival.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that like we see all this big events and stuff happening in Gardens of the Moon. You got a lot of people here like that happened.
Yeah.
Like that was a thing. Like there's a demon. Here's Amanda Rake. Like
Yeah. Gruntle's like, I believe that something happened. I don't know
yeah,
what, but
I
something
know.
powerful destroyed this bridge.
Which is just kind of crazy to think about. You feel like more people would have noticed, but then I do remember Gardens of the Moon at the end. They're like, "What's that?" And they're like, "Don't worry about it. It's just off in the distance. It's a storm."
Pretty much. And what did you think of our new friends, Beauchelain and Corbel Broach?
I'm like, they feel like Cotillion and Killian bed for a moment.
In Shadow Throne.
Yeah. I was like, hold the phone. This feels too familiar. I
Yeah.
was like, I know they're not, but something's off here.
Oh, and um, Gruntle says to Emancipor Reese, because Beauchelain is all in black, and he's like, black was Lastia shade in Druidistan, and Reese is like, black is Beauchelain's eternal shade, sir. And I'm like, ah, there it is. Beauchelain is an emo.
I know. And I love the description, like the visual description Erickson gives here of
Oh yeah.
like just like how he looks. He's like kind of a bit more pale. I'm like, this is just hilarious. Like this is like,
I'll actually read the description of both of them.
oh, go for
Um,
it.
so this is Beauchelain. The master's face was pale, shaped much like a triangle, an impression further accented by a neatly trimmed beard. His hair, slick with oil, was swept back from his high brow. His eyes were flat gray, as colorless as the rest of him, and upon meeting them, Gruntle felt a surge of visceral alarm. And then the way I imagine Beauchelain speaks, I don't know if have you seen any of Grand Admiral Thrawn in Rebels?
A little bit, yeah.
I just imagine Thrawn's voice when Beauchelain speaks. Like, I can't do it justice, but like, Captain Gruntle, your employer's prying is none too subtle.
Oh, yep, yep. Yeah, now that you mention that, that's actually pretty, I feel like it would be pretty accurate for him.
Uh, and then Corbel Broach, his broad, round face, his eyes buried in puffed flesh, and wide, full-lipped mouth set slightly downturned at the corners, a face both childlike and ineffably monstrous. I'm
It's
like,
like a,
that paints a picture of
it really
two
does.
really bad, really bad dudes.
I know. Because then he mentions, he's like, well, should I kill him or something?
Oh yeah, can I kill him now? And Bushline's like, no.
No. Gruntle calls him an
Oh
adder.
yeah, my partner has simple notions, simple as an adder's. You mean? Perhaps.
Yeah, because they're like, we're tourists, is the
Yeah,
vibe they try to give off.
we've never heard of the Malazan Empire.
He's like, are you serious? And they're like, we heard about this rake and pale moon and stuff. I'm like, uh-huh, you sure heard about it.
Yeah, Gruntle's like, yeah, it's real. I saw it overhead, and they're like, how far away is that? Scale is hard to determine. We want to know everything.
He's like, I don't know, you're asking the wrong guy, but there it is. Go look. Yeah, I'm like, these guys give off serious Shadow Throne in the rope vibes.
Yeah, and then Gruntle like talks
He,
toward. He doesn't know who the Lord of Moonspawn is, but he starts talking like muttering like, I wish you had killed them so that they didn't do anything. The surgeons call it preventative medicine.
exactly.
I also Erickson's dialogue continues to just get better and better. Because his banter with Harlow about the fish is just so great.
Which one's
Because
that?
so Harlow is the one that was fishing on the pier. He's the short guy with the way too long arms that uses a two-handed broadsword. He's just one of the other caravan guards in Gruntle's group with
Mm,
Stani. And Harlow says, look, you sour excuse for a man. I've caught supper. Supper for a monastic rat, you mean? I could inhale that damn thing up one nostril. Fish soup, flavor. That's just great. I love mud flavored soup. Look, it's not even breathing. It was probably dead when you caught it. I banged a rock between its eyes, Gruntle. Must have been a small rock. For that, you don't get any. For that, I bless you.
I genuinely don't remember that whole bit for some reason. It's pretty good though.
Yeah, the dialogue just keeps getting better.
I know.
Erickson is so good when two characters just go back and forth.
It happens later. I explicitly remember the. Oh, I'm so bad with names. Usually I'm pretty good. Picker and
Oh, Picker and Blend. Yeah.
Blend. Yep. I thought their quips to each other were pretty good. They were
Oh,
funny.
yeah. That's not till chapter 2.
I know. That's the quips I remember this time around. For some reason, I don't remember that part. I don't know why. It's probably because I read it last night. Like I remember almost everything we've talked about, but for some reason, I can't remember the fishing scene.
That makes sense. And then we get a wolf circling a one-eyed human in the Warren of Chaos.
Oh yeah, wonder who that is.
And then, guess who's back? Talk the Younger.
Finally, finally, I was so happy. I was like, yes, we get him. He's back. We know what happened. I knew you didn't die.
Yeah, there's this sense, because at least for me, my experience as a first-time reader was, okay, Gardens of the Moon was confusing, but I liked it. And then Deadhouse Gates explained some more things, but was still kind of confusing at some parts. And I liked it. And you go to care about that place. And then you get back to Memories of Ice and you start with the epic prologue and a whole bunch of brand new stuff. And then you get to Talk the Younger and the Bridge Burners. And you're like, it's good to be back.
You're like, this feels familiar now. Because I mean, I've gone into every book with like not reading even the back of it.
Let's go.
And so like I'm coming in completely blind to every single one. And so I'll read the prologue. I'm like, all right, this is how it's gonna open. Okay. I have no idea what's gonna happen this entire book.
Yep.
Which has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So listeners, Matt really does not know like almost anything that's coming.
I actively avoid looking anything up online. Only if
Yeah.
Nate shows me something.
So Talk wakes up. He's in a a plane of obsidian.
Yep.
Sees some barrows, and we learn more about them.
They were the city people, the extinct race, right?
Yeah, the Kachain Shamal.
Yeah.
He literally stumbles over Tool, and I love Talk trying the entire time that we're in his head.
I
He's
know.
constantly trying to just hold back his sarcasm.
Every single time.
It's just the trait that he has,
I know.
and he's like, maybe I shouldn't say some of these things.
And I feel like Tool's just like he's so old that he's just kind of like nothing really phases him. He just says things because he doesn't like he just doesn't have a filter
Oh yeah,
type
for
of thing,
sure.
which I think is rather funny.
Talk gives you a quick recap of Gardens of the Moon. Just thinking about the stuff that he did.
Which was rather nice, actually. Nice little refresher.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Especially
Oh,
after 3 months.
he right as he stumbles over Tool, he's like, speaking of Hood's skull.
I love the description Erickson gives of Tool here finally. Like he talks about the bones and the sinews connecting and how he like slowly gets up and then Talk is like, no, he should have stayed laying down.
Yep. What's happened to the adjunct? Where are we? Lost. Which question is that an answer to, Tool? Both. Can you be more specific? Perhaps.
I feel like Tool is just like, I am 300 plus thousand years old. I'm just gonna mess with this guy for fun.
We are in the ancient place called Morn, 200 leagues to the south. It is just past midday. Just past midday, you said. Thank you for the enlightenment.
Because we see Talk
Oh,
earlier trying to figure out what time it is and how to orient himself. So he already knows how all that works. And he's like, hey, can you help me get some equipment? He's like, well, to the south, there's some reeds. We can catch some birds for the fletching. Then you can make some rope with this thing. And then if you look around, we're not short of pointed tips for the arrows.
we can make plenty of arrowheads.
He's like, oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks for that.
Oh, my. Okay. Oh, this one exchange. So Lady Envy appears with her two wolves.
Yep.
The A Baaljag, which is that's fun also, a living A from the A were some of the creatures in the prologue.
Yep.
but runs up to Tool, and Talk says, "An old friend, Tool? Or does the beast want you to toss it one of your bones?" And he just kind of stares at him, and Talk says, "Humor, or a poor imitation. I didn't think Talon Mask could take offense." And Tool says, "I was considering this beast is an A and thus has little interest in bones. They prefer flesh, still warm if possible. I see. Humor."
I love that bit. Because I love how
Uh,
Talk finally comes to the realization a little later. He's like, wait, I'm talking to like ancient people.
yeah. And Talk thinks, "Oh, maybe this won't be so bad after all. Surprises never cease."
You know. So what the A is a type of wolf-like creature,
It's
right?
like, yeah, it's like a bigger wolf kind of creature.
Okay. That's what I was picturing it as, but I couldn't like exactly remember or like understand what the description was.
Yep. And then this is where we learn that Draconis's curses come through. Because
Yep.
Tool is like, "Yeah, this is Lady Envy, Draconis's daughter. He made Dragniper and was killed by Anamanda Rake, who now has it." And Draconis named his two daughters Envy and Spite.
And she's like, "Oh, you ruined all the fun of me trying to tell him who I am."
"Nonetheless, you are known to me." "So it seems. I admit, over modest of me to assume that I wouldn't be recognized. I've crossed paths with the Talon MS more than once. At least twice, that is."
How unfortunate. Just kidding.
And then we get the Segula.
They felt I was so confused by them. They felt so weird to me.
So what they are, they're just a tribe of super good warriors that all wear masks.
They reminded me of a specific people from a certain series. You know what I'm talking about?
What series?
I feel like it's a spoiler. It's the Mistborn one. Do you remember?
Is it from Era 2?
Yeah, it's Era 2.
Oh, okay. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I pictured for a moment.
Yeah, it's like white enamel masks that they wear.
White enamel, okay. Because I know they're like kind of like they had artistic things on them,
Yeah,
and
they
they're
have
like a
marks on their
southern
faces.
tribe from kind of another area or something.
Yeah, they're from
Because
an island south of Guinabacus.
yeah, because Talk knew about them. They explained
Mm-hmm.
a little bit like they believe in a hierarchy.
Yep. And if the hierarchy is in doubt, you must challenge.
Yeah, and so Tool just knocks him out.
Yeah. And Envy's like, "Did you kill him?" Kind of disinterested. And Tool's like, "I didn't want to kill one of your servants, Lady Envy. I knocked him out with the flat of my sword." "Nah, how kind of you."
Oh, how very kind of him.
Yep. And then Talk lets Lady Envy know that the only one that will speak to her is the lowest ranked, because the other two are above, speaking to people that are not Segula.
Oh yeah, I thought they were an interesting because they didn't. It kind of was just like one of those things. I was like, this feels kind of random, honestly. Like this does it? I couldn't remember if it explained though how she got the mess servants. Does it say?
Um, there's not a direct explanation, I think. But when she gets angry of them at one point and says, "Challenges are forbidden. Any more of this nonsense, and I shall lose my temper." And they all flinch back a step.
Mhm.
So I wonder if maybe she just like ran into them and like intimidated them with
Something magic.
something. Yeah. Magic, or yeah, temper or something. I mean, she clearly has like some magical seduction of some kind,
Yeah.
because Talk
Ah,
starts feeling it.
well, she wants people to feel envious, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. They're in the ruin of a tower though, correct? Like this is where it's at with the tombs and stuff.
Yep. So they're at
Okay.
Morn, the same place from the prologue.
That's right.
And yeah, they enter through the first floor through a balcony of what Talk assumes to be the
Mm,
first floor, which he's like, "Oh, so that shows like how much obsidian has piled up."
yeah. But as well, it's like I think I don't know if they mention it here, but isn't it here that they talk mention a warren? Like he senses a warren here, or is that
Oh,
chapter two?
Tool mentions that, yeah, there's the rent behind the tower, which we saw earlier. So that is the gate into a warren.
Okay.
And Lady Envy says that she's determined that it's not Omtos Falak, but she doesn't know what it is, and that
Hmm.
it feels almost mechanical.
Yeah. Feels rather strange. And then yeah, I thought it was interesting though that Talk is like, hey, can get some supplies and stuff, and like get some help getting north. And she's like, I can get you some food. That's about it. And then Tool's like, hey, yeah, you won't be able to learn anything here. It's all up north. So she's like, all right, road trip.
Let's go.
Let's go.
And Talk at one point is like, I was hoping we'd get past pleasantries and get to something more intimate. I'm thinking with the wrong brain.
I know. I'm like, Talk, you are out of your league here, buddy. You're dealing with people that are thousands of years old.
Yeah, well, Talk thinks like if I wasn't a one-eyed ugly soldier, I'd be tempted to say that she's flirting with me.
I know. I forget he has the one eye.
And then Talk gets like snappy with her at one point, and she makes some comment like, "Oh, that is so unattractive."
It's like, dang it. It's like a high school crush type of thing. That's what he's dealing with.
Oh yeah, because Lady Envy at one point says like he seems to have you at a disadvantage, and then Talk comes back later and gives her that same line, and she does not appreciate it.
Yep. The flirtatious behavior between daughter of a god and Talk the Younger.
So if this is not like a D&D party, you've got a one-eyed stranded soldier, an undead bone man, two giant wolves, three masked warriors, and then a super beautiful lady.
Yeah. No, I was kind of thinking not exactly that, but I was like, this feels like the start of an interesting long journey.
Yep.
I was like,
They even
here,
all sit down around a table together and eat and drink.
like, this is the start of an epic quest, or epic side quest, I should say, to
Well,
return to the main party.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, it was a pretty good interaction, all this, but I don't think I have too much more on this part.
Yeah, I
I don't know
think
if you
that's
do.
all for chapter 1. Chapter 2. Picker and Blend stop an old man named Manug on his way to Pale to sell his wares. Picker buys 3 torques aspected to the Ascendant Treach before sending him on his way. Manug walks down a hidden pathway into a warren where he meets with the crippled god in a tent and shows him the cards that he has painted. The god is pleased and as a reward kills the tumors in Manug's legs, which kills the legs themselves as well. Perfection is anathema to the crippled god. Picker reveals that she dropped one of Quickben's pebbles in Manug's pack when he wasn't looking. Quick and the Moranth arrive an hour after sunset to pick up the takings from the trail. Quick says that he can't remove Picker's torques because Treach has been in his soul-taken form for centuries and is insane. He settles down and prepares to find his tracker. It leads him to the warren where the crippled god resides. It's revealed that he is poisoning Burn, the sleeping goddess. The god also says that Quickben's gods have chained it. Quickben attacks the god with his warrens and begins to flee with his tracker, but is dragged backwards towards the god. A huge hand of earth reaches up and pulls him down into Burn. One of the goddess's servants tells him that Burn is weakening and near death. The threat overwhelms the wizard and he leaves his tracker there. He wakes up near dawn and is strapped onto a quarrel so he can sleep. Piran is not feeling well. He blames it on the blood of the Hound of Shadow. I'll leave that in. He blames it on the to put it mildly.
Yeah, put it mildly.
He blames it on the blood of the Hound of Shadow in his trip through Dragnapur, as well as the immense load on Dujak's officers since the outlying. He refuses to think about the Empire, trusting that Devor will take care of their house. Piran speaks with Whiskey Jack, whose broken leg from the Fete has healed badly. Whiskey Jack offers Piran a different position, knowing that the bridge burners resent him. Piran refuses and has the bridge burners hurry up and wait for departure to teach them discipline. Mallet approaches Whiskey Jack in the gatehouse to let him know that Piran has sorceries cursing through him. Whiskey Jack says to get Quickben on it when he returns. Yeah, I'll leave that bit in about Piran.
When you said that, I was like, that's putting it lightly.
Maybe I should try and throw more jokes like that in there. So
I was like, that's a interesting way to phrase that.
well,
Not feeling well.
yeah, I didn't know how else to put it because it's a lot. But
I know.
yeah, for listeners, a couple of times I've gotten Matt to react during my summaries by like nodding or smiling or like putting his fist in the air, but that's the first audible reaction I've gotten.
I know. I usually try to kind of keep it more quiet. Or occasionally I've had myself on mute while I did something else for a second. And I'll like react, but that one I was like, come on. Come on.
Well,
That's
I'm proud of that one.
anyways, here we this was actually a pretty solid chapter.
Yeah. So we've got Picker and Blend
Great
again,
names.
and a Manug.
Minug, I know. I read that. I was like, what is that? Where'd you even come up with that?
Well, and during this section, Picker is even like, "Hey, I've got to take down your name. I'm called Manug. You poor bastard."
I know. I was like, what? That is just like, it's like the parents that name their kid like some old person name or like spell it super bizarre. And you're just like, why? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Manug is an unfortunate name.
it really is. It is awesome though.
But yeah, they've
Minug.
Picker and Blend are there by themselves. And at the start of the conversation, Picker's like, "Yeah, so you don't look dangerous, but just so you know, you've got 5 crossbows trained on you." And then later in the conversation, she's like, "Don't forget, we've got a dozen crossbows trained on you." And Manug is like, "I thought it was 5." Yeah, we got reinforcements.
I know. I was like, your story's not staying straight, Picker.
Yeah, so
I need
she
like
goes
a
through his. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just like real quick, speaking of Minug though, I'm like, I now want like a pet fish or something, and that's what I want to name it.
No, a
Where'd you
pet
get that
slug.
name?
You can have a.
Slug?
You can have, yeah, the slug Manug.
Oh, there you go. Or like a snail, like a water snail in
There
a
you
fish
go.
tank. There, yeah. It's a great idea, actually. Anyways, you're saying?
Yeah, they search his pack, and he's like a carver and stuff, and he has a bunch of trinkets, and Crick is like, "Oh, these are interesting. Are they aspected?" And yeah, Treach. He's not a god. Oh, there's a temple to him. Does that make him a god?
Like he's crazy.
Yeah, we find that out later, and then Picker turns to Bland and is like, I kind of want these. I kind of want these. How much?" And they settle on a price, and she's like, "Is anyone gonna miss this money if I buy it?"
You know? And he's like, this is gonna take me a minute to walk with it. She's like, yeah,
Yeah, too bad.
yeah, well, too bad. You got a lot of money now. You're set.
Yeah, kind of a genius plan by Dujek though to stop people traveling to Pale and make them pay tribute.
Yeah. Trying to cut off the black market essentially in a way and smuggling. He
Yeah,
knows what's up. It's surprising though that there's still some of the bridge burners left. I thought there was less than there is.
yeah. Whiskey Jack says that there's 38 left.
Yep. They've been betrayed twice.
Yep.
Yep.
So still not a ton, but
Now I thought there's only like 10 left though, so that's more than I remember.
okay. Luckily, it's a bit more than that.
But Minogue though, poor guy.
Oh yeah,
Can't catch a break. Because he's ugly as well. The description of him, I'm like, of course his name is Minogue. Poor dude.
yeah. I mean, should he have seen it coming, serving the crippled god? Like,
I know. Like, poor guy. Like, yeah, it was gonna come, but still at the same time, you feel bad for the dude.
what did you think of the cards that he painted?
Remind me of a deck of dragons. Is that what it was supposed to be? Or a
Good
similar
thought.
idea?
Good
Like
thought.
that was my initial idea. I'm like, this feels like a fortune telling set of cards. But
Yeah. And the crippled god makes sure to say, like, and they all have flaws, right?
yeah. Which I don't know, this whole chapter made me feel like this sets up the whole rest of the series. Like this whole like just first couple chapters where it's just like and here's the main like back cooking thing for the next
Yeah.
few books.
Here, here's some setup for you.
Yeah, because I've been wondering. I'm like, where's the setup for like this whole series? Like, there hasn't been anything that's really felt like and this is something you need to keep your eye on or something, or like kind of working in the background, you know. And
Yeah.
so, like, skipping ahead just a little bit when Quick Ben goes to the gets captured by or like rescued by Burn Servant. He's like, help, it's like immediate. He's like, well, how long? He's like, tens and tens of years.
Decades.
And he's like, oh, only decades? He's like, not too bad. He's like, I
Yeah.
forget.
He's like,
Mortals.
well, you're immortal, so decades is
Yeah.
not long.
Yeah. But I was like, that definitely feels like a setup there. Like, you got this foreign being, the cripple god from another world, apparently, who doesn't sound like a pleasant dude.
And who is the namesake of the final book?
Yeah. I was like, some things are starting to kind of
Yeah.
click into place.
I will say there is setup in the first 2 books.
Oh,
um,
I'm sure.
that is much
But
more noticeable on a reread. But I will say that book three is where it feels
it,
like the setup for
yeah.
stuff moving forward.
Yeah, because I feel like book one ended with the setup of like to book three, very much of just like we're gonna deal with this thing first, and then and then I'm like after, so I feel like book three will be beating the religious war, but then it'll be like a test of will they keep this allegiance to fight a greater
Yeah.
power or something. But
Well, so fun fact, Memories of Ice was supposed to be book two. And this is back in the early 2000s, and Erickson's like floppy disk got corrupted, and he
that's right.
lost like 200-ish pages of Memories of Ice, and he did not want to go back and rewrite it all again. And so he was like, well, I was going to do this anyway, so I'll just jump there now
Yeah.
and then jump back to Memories of Ice. And I almost feel like it works better because it gets you used to going
Mm,
back and forth.
yeah. No, I think that's true. But this whole bit definitely felt like more of a setup, and I thought the crippled god was interesting, where he was like he's not about perfection, and he's not about I guess pleasant things, because he kills the dude's legs and is like tough luck.
Yeah, I did heal your tumors. I just
Yeah,
also killed your legs too. And Manug
yeah,
just immediately switches and starts praying to him, like thanking him for his like imperfections. And
yeah. Just kind of super bizarre, because if you think back, the thing that oh my gosh, Picker, right, she bought was like a seamless kind of thing that he made, like a perfect kind of thing.
yeah,
So I think that's interesting that he worked so hard on this craft to become almost perfect on it, to then worshiping imperfection or something.
I love the image of the crippled god. He's like shaded, and you can't really make him out because there's a bunch of smoke, and he's just in a tent on a plane.
Yeah. Reminds me of kind of like the Emperor and Empire Strikes Back, where he's just kind of that mysterious background dude where you're like, oh, who's this guy?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And then we jump back to Picker and Blend. Quickben arrives, and Picker is like, these feel kind of tight. Quickben, can you take them off? Can you take them off, please? He's like, well, if it was a different ascendant, maybe, but Treach is insane.
I know.
He veered into his soul taken form 500 years ago and hasn't left it since and is now insane.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. That whole bit of just like she just keeps bashing Blend, and Blend's like, well, you're the dummy who put it
Yeah,
on.
Blend's like, I told you so. And Picker's like, no, you didn't. Why didn't you say anything?
She's like, I did tell you.
I I also love Quick Ben is like this super clever, powerful sorcerer, and his thing that he uses for everything.
Is a rock.
Yeah, the thing that he uses for everything is a rock. Like Kalam has two rocks that he uses for Quick Ben's stuff in Deadhouse Gates, and now here Picker's
Yep.
like, "Don't worry, I dropped one of Quick Ben's pebbles into the pack."
Which is ingenious, really. Like no one's gonna
Yeah,
touch a rock.
yeah. Where would he have picked up that pebble? That's not like it's not suspicious at all. He could have picked it up anywhere.
I know. Reminds me of try to remember of some other series that had something like that. Where it was kind of like hiding in plain sight.
I mean, the Horcruxes and Portkeys in Harry Potter.
Oh, the port keys. That's what I'm thinking of. Like, because it was the old tire. They're like,
Yeah.
well, would a muggle pick that up? And they're like, no, it's not.
What did you think of Quick Ben's interaction with the crippled god?
Pretty nuts, because it shows Quick Ben's power. Because he's like, I got access to seven wards if I need to right now, and more if I want to. And so he's like, I need to get out of here. Power. But then, like, he gets hit with a wave of power that was pretty wild as
Yeah,
well.
starts getting dragged back because the crippled god is like, "You're powerful. I want you."
Yep.
And Quick Ben also, and if I ever refer to him in the like the shorthand version, I always say Quick because it feels weird to call him Ben.
Oh, I know.
So I just say Quick because it's always Quick Ben. But he also like he baits the crippled god a little bit and is like, "Oh, so you want me to do something for you for my tracker?" And the crippled god is like, "Yes," and he's like, "Ah,
I
no
know.
thanks."
He's like, joke's on you. That ain't happening.
And then what was your thought when a massive hand of earth just drags him down?
I was a little confused for a second. I was like, where did that come from? But I was like, makes sense. Because didn't the servant die, though? He's like, another
Yeah, the
servant will
servant
talk
does
to you.
die in front of Quick Ben. Yeah,
So I thought it was interesting though. I was like, oh, hey, here we go. I like this. I was like, here's some setup.
and he is inside of Burn.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's inside a burn. I was trying to remember where he was, but which is kind of gnarly. Makes me think of like it just adds more to the questions of burn
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Burn is the Earth goddess. So,
He was pretty young, apparently, relatively speaking to some people.
oh yeah, Race mentions in Guardians of the Moon that it's a young goddess compared to him. Yeah, so Quick Ben is feeling super overwhelmed and panicked. And like
I
you
know.
mentioned, the guy's like, "We've only got decades." And Quick is like, "Oh, okay, I can work with that."
He's like, what do you got? What's your timeline? He's like, do we got like tomorrow, next week, next month, next year? And he's like, decades, decades, dude. We got decades. We're
Which
in trouble.
which to be fair, decades for an immortal being is just nothing.
It makes me wonder, are immortals master procrastinators? Because you know, like in all these stories of like these guys are like, I've been prepping for 100 years. I'm like, was it that necessary to prep for that long or be working at it that long? Like, I get you're immortal, but like, couldn't you just like hurry it up a little bit?
Well, you've got to speed up things that you're doing because eternity is a long time. You don't want to get everything done in a year and then have to wait 50 years for your plan to mature.
I don't know. It's kind of strange.
And then after Quick Ben gets out of his journey, because it was just his spirit body going through all of that,
That's right. Yep.
uh, he he acts super scared, and Picker's like, "Holy shit, this is the most scared I've ever seen you, Quick Ben. What is going on? You were good. Oh, what was it?
Like you were
I ain't never seen
unconscious.
you this scared, wizard. You got me ready to piss ice cubes."
Oh yeah.
They were the last words of the night that Quick Ben remembered, but remember them he did.
Of course he did. It's ice cubes.
One of my all-time favorite like small lines of the series.
I remember reading that. I was like, that's it's like when they say like, was it Hood's toe or something? Or I
Yeah,
don't remember. I'm like, where do you
Hood's stubby ankle.
yeah, stubby ankle. I was like, where are you getting this? Come on.
Oh, it's so great.
It's so funny.
Do you have anything else about Quick Ben, Burn, the Crippled God, that stuff?
Not off the top of my mind. No, I think I said everything I wanted to about that stuff. Pretty gnarly, but yeah, that's about
And
it.
then we've got our sick boy Piran.
What a
What did you think of him?
um I think it's well, first off, I think it's interesting that he like it's brought up at the end of the chapter, but like because Whiskey Jack is like, hey, if you want, you can go be like in charge of these guys. They respect noble borns more. And he's like, no, I think I'll stay here. He's like, all right, well, if you ever want to change, let me know sooner rather than later. So I think it's interesting that he even after all he's been through, he's still kind of like looked at like just kind of meh, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, the Nobleborn
Hmm.
sticks on you.
Yeah.
Because one of Piran's bridge burners comes up and tells Whiskey Jack something, which could just be force of habit because Whiskey Jack was the leader of the bridge burners until he became second in command. But
Yeah.
he's like, "Why are you telling that to me? Tell it to your superior officer." And Piran makes them get ready and then just wait for an hour and a half until they leave. And Whiskey Jack is like, "Nice touch."
I know. And I love how Prawn's interaction with Whiskey Jack and Whiskey Jack's like, hey, I'm second in command. You know that, right? He's like, oh, I know, I forget. You're not the sergeant and stuff. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Me too.
Well, Whiskey Jack is like, "Yeah, that's why I need people like you to remind me of my new position."
He's like, if you treat me how I'm supposed to be treated, then everyone else will.
Yeah, you get the feeling Whiskey Jack liked being a sergeant more than his
Yeah.
current position.
Because I feel like, because he mentions it, he's like, do you think I'll get to use a sword? Do commanders do that? Or he's like, do you think I'll fight? He's like, do you think I'll get some, like, get out there? I also thought it was funny is Mallet's the healer, right?
Yeah,
And Mallet's like, no, you need to take care of your knee. He's like, I don't care.
later.
He's like, that's for another time.
Whiskey Jack, I just see this old grizzled veteran who still got it and is still like fit and capable, but just gray all through his beard and his hair, just a super gruff voice like, "Later.
I
We'll
know.
take care of it later, not now."
Yeah, it's pretty funny how he's just so nonchalant about some things, and he just kind of forgets though that like he is in charge, and he kind of has to show it.
Yeah. I
But
mean, he's not in an unfamiliar position because we
no,
did learn in Guardians of the Moon that he was Dujek's superior at one point and was a commander of an army,
yeah,
but it's been a while.
yeah, it's definitely been a while. Which I remember, I did remember that, so I was like, I'm curious to see how this will play out though, because like he hasn't been in this for a while, and it feels like he enjoys this more than what he was before as the commander.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Perron is just super sick, uber depressed, can't focus on anything. Doesn't help that he has a ton of responsibilities now, like he's actually having to be captain and make supply decisions and
Yeah,
all of that stuff. And then he goes to sleep and he just has nightmares of drowning in darkness and
every time he goes to sleep, and he dreams he's a wolf as well.
yeah. So he's like, Hound of Shadow, trip through Dragnapur. That's probably why.
Yeah. Which he mentions though that it sounds like the wolves are looking for someone in Dragnapur, right? Maybe I'm off on that, but that's what it sounds like. They're looking for someone chained up or something there. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't remember anything like that, but that doesn't mean it's not in there.
I aren't you all knowing? Shouldn't you know every little word in detail?
Oh, absolutely. I honestly don't have too much to say about Perron because he's just super sick and doesn't quite know why.
Yeah.
I did love his interaction with Trots because he comes up and Trots just spouts off this attempt at like poetic, flowery language, and Perron's like, someone had mentioned your new like loquaciousness, like
Oh yeah. Yep, yep.
because Trots is like the not the thug. What am I looking for? He's the
Sapper?
brute. He's the brute.
Oh,
Trots is the brute of the group,
yeah.
like the brute warrior type. And then Perron leaves him, and Hedge comes up, and Trot says, "You, Sapper, are the scum beneath a pebble in a stream running through a field of sickly pigs." Good one, though a tad long winded. And then I think this is just to show off humor between soldiers because then they have a short conversation and Trots leaves and Trots is like, "One day I hope to feast on your bones." And Hedge is like, "Ha, that's a good joke. It was serious. It would be an honor.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
It's an honor to cook. It would be an honor to cook and feast on your bones."
He's like, would it? To honor you, my friend. You almost had me there. Yeah, I love the little quips between some of these soldiers. It reminds me of some of the bits in of what's it called? Deadhouse Gates.
Oh, the soldiers banter and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the sappers. I love it how it's like still reminds me of the when they used basically all of their explosives and they're like, you think they lost their mom?
Yeah, they're all crying.
I know.
Well, we get a little more of that. It's a little more respectful because Whiskey Jack has been Mallet's superior for years, but there's still a little back and forth there. And
Yeah.
Mallet's like, "So I quested towards Piran, and my healing worn like actually like recoiled from him." And Whiskey Jack's like, "So what does that mean?" "I have no idea." Well, get Quick Ben on it. And Mallet offers again to heal his leg. Whiskey Jack is like, "Later." And he's like, "You and Piran are just as stubborn as each other. Are you sure you're not related?" And Whiskey Jack has a line about, "Your average camp dog has purer blood than me."
I know. I was like, reading that though made me was like, okay, now I want the backstory on Whiskey Jack. Like I know that was like just a quick back, but at the same time I was like, all right, now we need the history of him. Who is Whiskey Jack? I found the line though that I think that
Oh,
made me think of the
okay.
the dogs. Maybe this is probably me just thinking a little too much about it, but it said no, into that darkness where the hounds went deep into the heart of Animander's Rake's cursed sword, the secret heart of Dragnapur.
Oh yeah, that was that because there was that mysterious like pool of darkness underneath the
Hmm.
wagon in Dragnapur. That's where Piran released them into.
That's right. Yeah. So that makes sense now. Adds up.
Yeah. That's about all I have for chapter two. The ending of chapter two is not nearly as interesting as the beginning. It
Nope.
because as even as I was reading Piran's section, I was like, So what are we gonna say about this? Because it's just Piran feeling terrible.
I know he's literally just feels like crap, and they're just like Mallet though's like, he better be seeing quick though. He's probably not gonna make it.
Something's happening to him.
Yeah, it's like a clash of warrens or something. They said. Yeah, I think that's all I have this week on it. It was a lot of fun getting back into it, so I'm excited to see where Memories of Ice takes us.
Yeah, so we'll be back with chapters 3 and 4 next week. I'll confirm how long that is after, but I think we'll be back with just 3 and 4 next week because chapter 5 is 54 pages long or something, and we'll probably just have 2 episodes of 2 chapters each coming up. So
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, so that'll be fun. I am super excited for Memories of Ice. I think I've mentioned before, it is probably in my top 3 of the series. So
Yeah. I'm excited because talking with everyone else, they said they've all really liked Memories of Ice so
yes.
far. Yeah, so I'm excited to see where it takes us and see kind of what setup and reveals, I guess, there are in it. So,
Yep.
woohoo.
We'll get into that. And in the meantime, how was that, Todd?